Welcome to Viewpoints. I'm Chris Graham.
And I'm Crystal Graham.
Woohoo! We made it through 2016, Crystal.
Woohoo! I wasn't expecting you to use that word.
I wasn't either, but it's 2017, and so fresh plate here for us in lots of ways, from the TV show, but also, just again, we made it through that crazy year that was 2016.
2016 was an interesting year with the presidential election, for one. So 2017 will be interesting. So we'll see what's ahead.
I don't know if it could be possibly as interesting as 2016, but we're going to start the show off here. Of course, for us here on Viewpoints, we started the show in August of 2016, so that's part of the annals of 2016 is that this show debuted. And so our first show of 2017, we're going to launch with, we're going to talk about Habitat for Humanity in Staunton Augusta Waynesboro. It's something that we've become increasingly knowledgeable about the last few weeks as, learning about Habitat's mission. And I think it'd be great for our viewers to learn a little bit as well. I think people kind of have an idea, maybe a vague idea of what Habitat does in the local communities in which it operates. But, we have a guest with us today who's going to really help us kind of learn a lot more detail about what Habitat does in Staunton Augusta Waynesboro.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit, on the drive here about, as a member of the news media in the past, I still kind of got my foot in that door now, but I remember, I think, once being invited out as a new homeowner, took the keys to a home that had been built through the Habitat for Humanity program. But beyond that, I don't know a lot about the scope of, what they have to do to get up to that point.
Well, let's learn together here about Habitat for Humanity. We have Lance Barton. Lance, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And so let's get to that question right off. Habitat for Humanity. What does Habitat do? What's the mission for Habitat?
As of today, I've been here for 4 months. So what Habitat does, you guys may know better than I do, but it's been an amazing learning experience these last few months, and there's been a lot of surprises. I'm surprised at the level of knowledge that people have about Habitat. I'm surprised at the level of misinformation that's out there. A lot of people believe that we give away houses. We don't. We build houses with the future homeowner and then give them a very affordable mortgage so that they can afford to be a homeowner. And so it's amazing. Not only am I going through a learning experience here because I spent the last 14 years in food banking, but also a lot of the people around me in the community are learning more and more about what Habitat actually is.
Let's talk about that background. Kind of bring you to where you are now. Founding CEO of the Northern Neck Food Bank. You worked for a couple of years in North Carolina in food banks. How do you think that experience helps you with your new role at Habitat?
I think actually that experience was invaluable to bring me here. I came into an organization that's going through an enormous amount of changes. The one consistent thing that happens in food banking is that everything will change all the time. One day you'll get a $1 million donation of food. You have to respond to it. And actually coming into this organization is a lot like that. So I'm well prepared for the challenges that I'm going through. But I think, as I look back on how my experience is impacting the job I'm doing right now, I would say it is that I'm extraordinarily fortunate to have had smart businessmen and women who were willing to teach me how to be a leader, to teach me how to work with people. Because one, you've got an organization going through a lot of changes. You've got staff that change always hits the staff the hardest because of the uncertainties. And had I not had those people who were willing to take the time to teach me how to be a leader, I wouldn't know how to answer that question.
Mm-hmm. I assume that the job brought you to the Shenandoah Valley, but we always say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but we always say we kind of like to get to know you a little bit. And I'm just curious about your impressions of the Valley since you've been here so far. You haven't been here very long, but,
oh my God.
but what you think of the Valley so far, about the people that you're working with and that you're meeting, the localities, that kind of thing.
As the new guy in the community, the thing I'm supposed to say is this place is amazing. I've never been to such an incredible place, and I'm supposed to say people are so nice. And unfortunately, that's exactly what I'm running into here. The day I came for my interview, I pull up my car to grab some coffee because I need a recharge. I pull in front of Black Swan Books downtown, which I'm familiar with Black Swan in Richmond. So all of a sudden, I know I'm going to be coming to an area that has used bookstores, coffee shops. Within 2 months, I meet people who work at the maker space. I meet artists, architects. I mean, it is amazing. I have lived in a lot of different places here and overseas, and I hate to be as cliched as it sounds, is I have never landed in such an extraordinary place. The quality and culture in this area is unbelievable. I mean, it's just, you know, it is not typical for a town or an area of this size to offer quite this much. And I'm a family man. I'm a husband. I've got a 7-year-old. I've got a 2-year-old. I need a town that's going to respond to my needs as a father. And good Lord, I'm almost getting sick of being invited to all these. I mean, there is something every week, which is great because, I mean, frankly, if I'm not doing it with my family, it's just almost not worth doing.
So how have you been in terms of getting to know the local community, not just as a father and now the head of Habitat for Humanity, but working with your board of directors, of course, folks on that board who are business leaders themselves, community leaders themselves. Talk about, you know, how you're getting to learn, you know, Habitat from that perspective and learn to, you know, the needs of the community and how Habitat can, you know, better meet them.
Well, I mean, the great thing about my board of directors is they understand I come from 14 years of food banking, not 14 years of Habitat for Humanity. So there's certain things that I have experience in that are very helpful in Habitat, but frankly, one of the best things about this board is they understand it just. There's a lot of moving parts. It takes a while to get to know how these things work. I mean, I'm going from moving food to moving houses. You know, the largest investment most of us will ever make in their lives. And you really need to know what you're doing. I mean, it may seem to a lot of people to be very simple, a transaction, but especially in the last few years, so many laws have changed with the mortgages, and that my board is great. They're just like, okay, just, you know, take your time, learn the ropes, and nobody can ask for more, especially when you're coming into a new organization.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what I think is neat about Habitat for Humanity is that a lot of nonprofits provide services. Obviously, that's the goal of a nonprofit, is provide a service. But Habitat also can make money in a different way. You're not just asking for money, and certainly people can donate money, and people do donate money to help the mission out. But you make money, as you mentioned, through the mortgages. You also have the restore that gives another revenue stream. Mm-hmm. So Habitat, in that sense, is a unique model. You have a few different ways to bring money in to help keep the mission going.
Yeah.
Food banks are even different in that respect, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, every nonprofit, most, I should say, nonprofits have the ability to generate revenue in some way and then rely on donations for the rest of it. Food banking, national average, say 30 to 40% could come from revenue generated, and the rest has to be from donations, grants. And Habitat is a little unique. Now, I gotta clarify one thing: we don't make money on mortgages. In fact, it's really quite typical for us to lose, for lack of a better term. Our personal investment in that could be $20,000 to $40,000. On every single house we build. And so, no, we certainly don't make money. We have zero equivalent mortgages. We have no interest mortgages. Interest is a huge part of what you're paying, especially in those early years. And by having zero equivalent mortgages or no interest mortgages, you can drastically reduce the cost of the house for an individual. But yeah, you're right. And I mean, the thing that's interesting to me about Habitat for Humanity from an economics point of view is that, for instance, we have our Restore, which sells used houseware and furniture and appliances, and that goes directly into helping us build houses. That's an amazing resource to have that they've started all across the country, is attached directly to our offices, is the opportunity not only for us to generate revenue to build houses, but also to every single day meet the public in our community. People come in, they see the mission, they see what we do. And it's my desire that every single person who walks in there, whether you're buying a 5-cent bolt or a $500 washer dryer, because there's one in there now, it's 10 times better than mine, and is that you are helping to build not even just a house, you're helping to build a home. And a home is what everyone deserves to have. People always say, you guys build houses. And frankly, I think it sells us short. I think what we do is we build home, we build financial security, empowering individuals to have control of the finances in their life. We have an incredible education system that they go through before they become a homeowner. Good Lord, I wish I had had those when I became a homeowner. I don't qualify for a Habitat home. But I find that education, no matter how rich or poor, is invaluable. It empowers us to be stronger, smarter with what we have, no matter how much it is.
So you talk about the misconception that people think you're giving away homes, and you've
Yes.
gone into a little bit there about how there's an education process that the future homeowners go through. But I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about, for people in the community that might qualify, like what the qualifications are. Not every
Absolutely.
little nut and bolt, but but I
Good,
am
'cause I don't
curious
know
about
them.
that. Good. but I am curious as
Yeah.
to what brings a person to you, what do you then offer them, and then obviously that final result is the people who do make it all the way through the program and do get the keys to their home.
Exactly, and I'll try to put it in simple terms, and to be honest, that's about the only terms I know it in right now, is that you take basically a lower income family. So let's say the median income in your community is $50,000. We are seeking out people who fall between about 30 and 75%, somewhere in there, below the median income. So we do not serve the absolute destitute. There are many charities that do exceptional work in that area. We are serving people who are right on that cusp, who by all means should be homeowners, but may not be able to afford it through conventional means. But I'll tell you, here's the interesting thing. We don't just build a house and give them the keys. To me, the real value of this program is the education, as we spoke about, but the sweat equity. Now, what is sweat equity? Sweat equity is every single person who comes through this program who's over the age of 18 puts in 250 hours either in education, working on their house, helping us with other needs that we have in the organization. Over the course of that time it takes for them to be accepted into the program and then become a homeowner, the relationship between us, this organization, and that family never ends. It becomes a relationship that's very solid. We go through the program together. We build the house together. I mean, I can't tell you, some of the reactions I've gotten from our homeowners who have helped work on their own houses is incredible. I mean, it's just, you're talking about ownership. You're talking about, this is my house. This is not something somebody gave me. And I'll tell you where that really hit home with me. 15 years ago, I was a heroin addict living on the second floor of a church. They'd let me stay there. It was open to people who were transient in the community. I needed food. I went to a food pantry. I walked in the door. I stood in line. I got up to the counter, and this woman looked me in the eye. She asked my name, and she took the time to get to know me. To this day, and I say this a lot because this is something that is burned right into my heart, is that I'll never remember what food I got. I will never, ever forget being treated like a human being. And so no matter where I work, whether it's food banking or Habitat for Humanity, the most important thing we bring is respect and dignity for the people that we serve. The most important thing we can do is treat people like adults. I've seen so many nonprofit organizations under the best of intentions become very paternalistic. They start to believe that if it wasn't for them, this person would be destitute or immobile. And it's just, I can tell you from my experience, when I talk about, this is my house, I own it, there was a day when I bought food, and the food that I bought tasted different than the food that was given to me. And that's a fact. It's not just something cool to say. It's a fact. That was my food. And that meant something to me. I bought it, I worked for it, and then nobody can take that away from me. And whether it's a can of beans or a 1,500 square foot house, that's mine. And every time I bought food, it changed me. Every time it made me stronger. And that is what I think we really bring to Habitat for Humanity. If you want to just build houses, I can definitely recommend some other places that will pay you enormously better to build houses. If you want to build lives, man, this is the place.
And this is the first time I've heard your personal story, so it's clearly not something I have written down, here to ask you about. But, from a heroin addict to an executive director of an organization, I'm just curious about your journey, like how you got to where you are today.
You know what? The first thing I'm going to say about that is there's about 500 people in the last 15 years that brought me to this point. Nobody goes on their own. Nobody makes it on their own. You make it with relationships. You make it by being strong. You make it by being weak. Here's what I have to say about it. This example happens every single day. Every day, people overcome. Every day, somebody changes their life. Somebody becomes what they were made to be. In my case, I didn't realize I was a leader. As I got clean, as I got trusted, as I got put into positions where I could make an impact, all of a sudden I was like, holy mackerel, I have leadership potential. I have leadership abilities. It got uncovered as I became the person that I actually am, without the cloud of drugs or bad life choices in general. But my journey to this point, it seems like a really straight line, but that's just not the way life happens, man. Life is like sailing, all right? You know where you're going, but you're going to tack. And that's what this life is about, is that I got off of drugs. I realized I enjoyed being clean. I met a woman who would never have given me the time of day as an addict. She brought into this world 2 beautiful kids who would never deserve the person that I used to be. It's funny, as I talk to a lot of recovering addicts who've had some clean time, we have this one thing that that is kind of in common, is that there comes a point where you are no longer trying to stay clean. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. And when I go home and it's 5 o'clock and I'm having dinner with my family, it just doesn't make sense for me to make those selfish choices. I have great people in my life. I am enormously fortunate for smart, caring, loving people. And when that happens to you, what else can you do? You can only try to the best of your ability to be like that.
So following up on that,
It's hard to follow that,
transition there.
Wow.
But to say, I can kind of identify in some ways, coming from a humble background. I guess both Crystal and I, to some degree, come from humble backgrounds, low-income family backgrounds. I grew up in a trailer park, single-parent mom, working really hard to do for her kids. And so I think about Habitat in that context, and think about how I guess I wish I never lived in a house until we bought a house. It kind of like how you say you wouldn't have qualified for a Habitat house you're on your own, and kind of wish we'd gone through that process, and how much that house means to us because it's ours.
Yes.
And so what Habitat does is, I think back as a kid, and I would have loved to have had the opportunity to have that stable place to be, kind of thing. You guys are transforming lives in that sense.
We're helping to facilitate the transformation of life. It's funny. Okay, so I've been in food banking, so there's food. Now I'm in shelter. It's like, what's the next thing? Clothing. But it's like, the fact is that all of these elements are incomplete on their own. But to me, a house is a box where there's a dinner table. And and around that dinner table is where people come together and eat as a family. just take the simplest of examples that particular habit in a family has a profound effect on crime rates, on pregnancy rates. That if the very least that we can do is build a safe, affordable shelter, what happens inside that as the choice of that family is it can have extraordinary impact for generations. So man, whether I'm putting food on the table or you know, a room where that table goes, my prayer, my desire is that, okay, here's an opportunity. You know, now you guys take it to the next level.
I always try to bring it to the individual, I guess you could say. And, you know, for those of us who are listening to your story and hearing about what Habitat does, I wonder how we might be involved. Like, what is your greatest need from the community and from individuals?
The greatest need from the community, you know what, I mean, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say we are a great investment. And I say the word investment because donation isn't enough. This is an investment in your community. So I'd be amiss to not say that we are a good investment in this community. But the thing I like about this is we have so many opportunities, from the person who is almost immobile, that there is a place for them in our organization, to the person who wants to come out and help us swing a hammer. And we're going to swing a lot of hammers this spring as we break ground on 3 properties. We are ramping up. And so no matter what your abilities are, there is a place for you at Habitat.
I remember actually helping build a Habitat home. And, you know, it wasn't until we were sitting here today that I actually remembered that. But I think it was through a United Way Day of Caring or something of that nature. That when we worked in Charlottesville one time, we went out to a job site and actually helped build a home. And so I remember being just kind of overwhelmed at how many people were out there that day, how many volunteers were there, helping build a home for someone.
Here's where I'll tell a story of myself now. My grandfather built houses and structures in general for 50 years. And none of that transferred to me through the DNA, unfortunately. And he even took me out. I worked a couple of summers with him. And what I learned from that experience was, this is not for me. A few hammers on fingers taught me that lesson. But there are other ways you can contribute, right? So
Pick
that's
up
the
nails, right? Did he give you another job?
I was good at laying cinder block because that involved a strong back, and I was good at putting the 2x4s and moving them around, and wheelbarrows full of sand. So yeah, there were things I could do that didn't involve skill. But that just goes to show there are a lot of ways you can contribute and be a part of what Habitat's doing.
You bet. I'm the last person you should have on a construction site. I am. This finger I have chopped off and had reconnected twice. I mean, it's just, do not put me in a construction site. Everybody has spiritual gifts. Everybody has things that they're good at. Swinging a hammer is not my strong point. So.
Well, I think we're down to a couple of minutes, but
Yes.
you know, one of the things that Chris and I wanted to talk about, and we talked about this before the show, is just a little bit of your eclectic background. So, you know, you have a graphic design background, you've done some art and that kind of thing. I thought you could maybe just share with us a little bit of that.
Sure. Yeah. I was 17 years old. I was in high school, barely making it through, and I heard that if you take art classes, it's really easy. So I took art classes, and I realized I can't draw a circle to save my life, and so I would help them put on the student art shows. I ended up doing that for 20-some years, and it included publishing books and publishing catalogs for the shows, lived in Eastern Europe, and fell in love with the graphic design over there, and would bring it back here and do exhibitions here in the United States. And amazingly enough, one of the conditions for this job at Habitat was I have a big 1910 printing press, and I need a place to put it. And so they gave me space at Habitat, and so my printing press is actually in the back of Habitat. If anybody wants to come see it, just knock on my office door.
Do you still use it for
I
anything,
do.
though?
I do, yeah. We're getting ready to do some more printing, get the press fired up.
And I guess being a part of a community like Staunton that has a really rich arts background probably helped, maybe part of a draw as you were considering this job and this move to the Valley.
Oh, you bet. You bet. Yeah, and it's just, every day it's more and more layers of how extraordinary this community is.
So for people to learn a little bit more about Habitat, you know, and maybe talk a little bit about the Restore store and where it's located and that kind of thing as well.
You bet. In Staunton, we're right on Richmond Road, 434 Richmond Road. It's funny, people say, where are you guys? And it's like, we're the enormous building with Restore and Habitat on the side. It's easy to miss. But 434 Richmond Road, on one side is the Restore. It's about 5,000 square feet of retail space where you can find any used, amazing prices on used goods. And then our offices are in the back of there. And we're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Also, the Restore is open 9 to 3 on Saturday. And yeah, we'd love to have you come by.
It's been a great opportunity to learn a lot about something that I think people take for granted, Habitat for Humanity being in their community, and especially in our community in Staunton, Waynesboro, and Augusta. So I want to thank Lance for being here on our show.
Yeah, absolutely. And for sharing his personal story as well, because I think, you know, a lot of people think that the person at the head of an organization doesn't understand where they come from. And clearly in this case, he does.
I think we've got 2017 set off to a good start. So I want to thank you for watching Viewpoints. I'm Chris Graham.
I'm Crystal Graham. Good night.